Peter Hayes graduated from Bowdoin College in Brunswick and went on to become one of the leading historians of the Holocaust. Hayes was back on the Bowdoin campus recently and sat down with us to talk about why the lessons of the Holocaust remain as timely as ever.
One of the things I wanted to know was why Peter Hayes had devoted his professional life to studying the darkest chapter in human history. He says one reason is that he was a child of the 1960s. 14 years old as that decade began, when Black Americans were demanding the rights they had been denied for so long.
I grew up watching attacks on churches in the South, bombing, explosions, little girls killed, police dogs being unleashed on people seeking their civil rights. And so I was always animated by distaste for racism.
As a historian of the Holocaust, Peter Hayes has focused on trying to help people understand how such horrors came to be.
It seems to me that's a very hard challenge. It's easier to throw heat than light. It's easier to throw the book against the wall than it is to say, this is the way the story unfolded, watch out.
Hayes says one part of the history of the Holocaust is unfamiliar to most Americans. And that is how, in the 1930s and 40s, the U.S. responded when it was asked to take in European Jews being persecuted by the Nazis.
Most people don't know that we were largely, I won't say indifferent, we knew what was happening in most cases. We were unwilling to help.
What does that tell us about America? How does that change the way people might think about America in that era?
It tells us that we're not always the country of the Statue of Liberty. We're not always the place that says, give us you're tired, you're poor, and so forth.
One of the big questions is, why did Germany, which was one of the most advanced nations in the world, turn into a place that came up with a sweeping and well-organized and well-thought-out plan to exterminate millions and millions of Jews? Is there any kind of a succinct answer that one can give to that?
There's one word that is central to the story: victimization. The Germans convinced themselves that something evil had been done to them, and therefore they were entitled to all forms of self-defense. And they fixated on two groups primarily, Jews and leftists.
From 1933 to 1945, the Nazis systematically killed some 6 million Jews. Yet this greatest crime in history would not turn out to mark the end of anti-Semitism. The Anti-Defamation League released a report about a month ago saying that the number of anti-Semitic incidents in the United States was at its highest level since it began tracking them in 1979. What do you make of that?
Anti-Semitism is built into Western culture. Its origins are in religious disputes that people no longer remember. But it has morphed over the years. It has taken forms of economic resentment, political hostility. We have to always remember that this is a particular form of superstition to which people are prone when they feel the need for it. And we have to constantly explain why it's nonsense.
In Portland, just a few weeks ago, there was a neo-Nazi rally out in the streets proclaiming white supremacy. When you think about that kind of activity going on in the United States right now, how do you wrap your brain around that? Does it surprise you that this kind of thing still happens?
In the era before World War I in Germany, many people thought that anti-Semitism was what they called a Kinderkrankheit, a childhood disease. Countries grow out of it, was the idea. I'm not that optimistic anymore. It is like a spore that lies in the soil, and under the right circumstances, you get a fungus that grows up. So we have to always be on guard. We have to not think we're better than we are. And then we take the necessary countermeasures when this happens. Certainly what's happened in the United States in the last 7 years has been horrifying. People have died for this. People have been shot down in synagogues for this. And we have to stand up and say that is not permissible in this country.
When you've devoted your life to the study of the Holocaust, is it hard to be an optimist about humanity?
Yeah, it is. Usually I'm asked this in the form of, are you worried? I'm always worried. If you study this, you're always worried. And so it is. But I do think if I have to sit down and think it through soberly, there are aspects of this society that provide us with defenses. And those aspects have been activated in the last few years, almost as much, perhaps more so, than the extremes of racism and anti-Semitism that we've seen. So I'm not an optimist, but I'm not despairing either.
If Peter Hayes seems familiar, you may recognize him from his contributions to the Ken Burns PBS documentary, The United States and the Holocaust.
If you'd like to read some of his work, a good place to start would be his book called Why? Explaining the Holocaust, in which he answers some of the most frequently asked questions about the Holocaust. You'll find more information about that on our website and mobile app.